أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. صدق الله العظيم.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Professor Dr. KAWASHIMA Shin, Professor of Department of International Relations, University of Tokyo, Ambassador Akamatsu Shuichi, Ambassador of Japan to Pakistan, Ambassador Khalid Mahmood, Chairman Board of Governors, Ambassador Sohail Mahmood, Director General, Institute of Strategic Studies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good morning. I am Dr. Talal Shabir. I am Director of China-Pakistan Studies Center. It's my pleasure to warmly welcome you all to this important discussion on Japan's perspective on regional issues at the Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad. Today's event provides a valuable platform to explore Japan's constructive engagement in Asia-Pacific region and beyond, highlighting its role in fostering peace, stability, and economic cooperation. Japan has long demonstrated a steadfast commitment to fostering peace, stability, prosperity in Asia-Pacific region. As a key player in global economy and proponent of multilateral diplomacy, Japan's approach to regional engagement is rooted in collaboration, mutual respect, and shared growth. Japan's deep economic ties and cultural exchanges with ASEAN countries underscore its commitment to building bridges of understanding and cooperation. By prioritizing regional diversity and leveraging its advanced technology and economic expertise, Japan has played a pivotal role in enabling its neighbors to achieve long-term goals. Pakistan and Japan have long outstanding and cooperative relationship marked by mutual respect and shared interests. Over the years, Japan has been a vital partner in Pakistan's development journey, providing significant support through official development assistance in areas such as infrastructure, education, and industry. Economic ties between the two nations are bolstered by Japan's role as a key trading partner and a source of investment in various sectors, including energy and technology. Additionally, cultural exchanges and people-to-people connections further strengthen the bonds between Pakistan and Japan, reflecting their commitment to fostering a relationship built on trust, collaboration, and shared prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, with this brief overview, I would now request Ambassador Sohail Mahmood for his welcome remarks. Ambassador Sohail Mahmood is Director General of Institute of Strategic Studies with an illustrious career in Pakistan's Foreign Service. He rose to become 30th Foreign Secretary of Pakistan. He has held numerous key positions, including Pakistan's High Commissioner to India, Ambassador to Turkey, and Thailand. Ambassador Sohail Mahmood.
Thank you, Dr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ambassador Khalid Mahmood, Chairman, BOG ISSI. Ambassador Akamatsu Suichi, Ambassador of Japan to Pakistan. Distinguished Professor Dr. Kawashima Shin, Professor of International Relations, University of Tokyo, Japan. Excellencies, distinguished participants, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. It is indeed a great pleasure to welcome everyone to this guest lecture by Professor Dr. Kawashima Shin of the Department of International Relations at the University of Tokyo. We are honored to host such a scholar of wide-ranging expertise and high international repute. He would be enlightening us on Japan's perspective on regional issues. It is noteworthy that the University of Tokyo, with which our distinguished speaker is associated, was among the earliest universities globally to establish a chair of Urdu language in 1930, reflecting its openness to cultural and intellectual exchanges. It is also a great privilege to welcome Ambassador Suichi on his first visit to ISSI. We wish him a very fruitful and rewarding term of duty in Pakistan. Pakistan's ties with Japan have deep historical ties, and an early example of this was the role of Sir Zafarullah Khan, Pakistan's first foreign minister, at the San Francisco Peace Conference in 1951. His strong advocacy for Japan's reintegration into the global community after World War II remains a testament to Pakistan's enduring commitment to international solidarity and cooperation. Since the establishment of diplomatic ties in April 1952, the two countries have nurtured a relationship grounded in mutual respect, shared interests, and a commitment to peace and development. Japan has been a steadfast development partner for Pakistan. For a long time, JICA has been a household name in our country. In the economic arena, Japan stands as one of Pakistan's key trading partners. Japanese automobiles and electronics are the most visible symbols of Pakistan-Japan collaboration, as indeed they are in many countries across the globe. As of 2022, bilateral trade was valued around $2 billion. Obviously, there is still a vast potential to be tapped. Our people-to-people connections have also flourished, with over 20,000 Pakistani nationals living in Japan and nearly 1,000 Japanese nationals residing in Pakistan. The presence of more than 70 Japanese affiliate companies operating in Pakistan further underscores the depth of our bilateral economic engagement. In recent years, the bilateral relationship has expanded in myriads of domains to include trade, investment, climate change, and regional stability. As we navigate a world of evolving challenges, Japan and Pakistan stand to benefit from enhanced academic and policy dialogues, fostering mutual understanding and collaborative solutions to global and regional issues. For its part, the ISSI looks forward to intensifying its own exchanges with counterpart Japanese think tanks. Today's lecture is an excellent opportunity to gain a deeper understanding of Japan's strategic outlook and its implications for the region. Professor Kawashima's scholarly contributions are well regarded in the field of international relations, and his insights will undoubtedly enrich our own understanding and perspectives. So I hope this session will serve as a platform for intellectual exchange, strengthening not only our understanding of regional dynamics, but also the enduring friendship between Japan and Pakistan. Thank you once again, Professor Kawashima, for joining us this morning. Welcome again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your welcome remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Akamatsu Shuichi for his remarks. Ambassador Shuichi is serving as Ambassador of Japan to Pakistan since December 2024. Very recently he has joined. A graduate of Tokyo University, he joined the Japanese Foreign Service in 1989 His distinguished career includes advanced studies at People's University of China and Harvard University. Mr. Shui Ji has held key positions in Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including Ambassador for Economic Diplomacy and Deputy Assistant Minister for various global regions. His international assignments include United Nations, China, Indonesia, and United Kingdom, where he presented Japan with distinction. Excellency, you have the floor.
Very kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues and distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Akama, and I'm a brand new ambassador of Japan to Pakistan. I've been working for Japanese Foreign Ministry more than 35 years, and for almost half of that period engaging in China-related topics. For example, my previous post was Consul General of Japan in Shanghai, China. Therefore, I've been acquainted with Professor Kawashima for a long time. Oh, thank you. Because he has been a leading scholar in Chinese studies and prominent professor of the Tokyo University, the most prestigious university in Japan. As you are aware, Japan and China are geographical neighbors and have more than 2,000 years interaction. As its result, Japan has a lot of information and accumulated experiences vis-à-vis China. Professor Kawashima's extensive research and insights will undoubtedly shed light on the complexities of the regional issues and provide valuable perspectives that would reinforce our strategies and policies. As Ambassador of Japan to Pakistan, I am very proud to see today's event in which esteemed scholars, policymakers, and thought leaders in Pakistan have got together. I am sure that this event provides a valuable opportunity for all of us to deepen our understanding of complex and provoking issues in East Asia, as well as offering a useful insight surrounding Pakistan. Lastly, but not least, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the ISSI for hosting this event. Japan and Pakistan share a long-standing relationship based on mutual respect and cooperation. I expect today's event will contribute to further strengthen such friendship between our two countries. Japan, Pakistan, Dosti, Jindabad. I'd like to close my remarks by thanking you all for the presence here today. I hope that today's lecture will be both enlightening and thought-provoking for the audience. Thank you very much. Shukriya.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Excellency, for your remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite Dr. Kawashima Shin for his lecture. Let me take a few minutes to introduce Professor Shin. He is a distinguished professor in Department of International Relations at Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, University of Tokyo. With a PhD in literature from University of Tokyo, his expertise lies in Chinese and Taiwanese diplomatic history and contemporary East Asian international relations. Over his research career, Dr. Kawashima has held academic positions at leading institutions like Peking University and Woodrow Wilson International Centers for Scholars. As an accomplished author, he has written extensively on Sino-Japanese relationship, East Asian diplomacy, and global affairs, with notable works such as Formation of Chinese Modern Diplomacy and Japan-China Relations, 2001-2022. Dr. Kawashima also serves as Executive Director of Nakason Peace Institute and Senior Fellow at National Security Agency of Japan, showcasing his influence in both academic and policy-making circles. Dr. Kawashima, you have the floor, please.
Yes, thank you so much for Ambassador Mahmoud and yes, Dr. Shabir. It's my pleasure, it's my honor to be here to talk about East Asian situation and discuss with you about this topic. Yesterday, I came here from India via UAE. It was a long trip from Delhi to Islamabad. Yes, but I really enjoy this trip to here. And let me introduce myself first. My background is historian, as he said, and my research topic itself is Chinese diplomatic history from the late Qin dynasty. So my work is just interpret the Chinese diplomatic documents. These are manuscript documents, okay, archives. So, but recently I also study about the Chinese, Taiwanese contemporary politics and the diplomacy. I taught at the Beijing University for Foreign Studies for 1.5 years, and also taught at Taiwan's National Chongqing University for a half a year. So I taught at both in Taipei and Beijing in Chinese. I taught Chinese history in Chinese to Chinese. It was so challenging opportunity for me. Anyway, I'll talk about because I'm a historian, so today I talk about the Japanese modern history and the East Asian situation from the before World War II to contemporary situation. Yes, please show the figures, slides. As you know, Japan experienced the modernization from the Meiji Restoration after the 1868. Yes, after that, through the two big war with China in 1894 and 95, and Russia, 1904 and 05, Japan got the victory, and Japan became an industrialized nation and entered the first-class powers in the world in the 20th century. And after the World War I, Japan became a permanent member of the Council of League of Nations in 1920. But we must remember the Japan had the Anglo-Japanese alliance. Japan had an alliance with Britain from 1902 to 1922 for 20 years. So Japan, under the support of Britain, realized it's a kind of dream. But anyway, Japan in 1990, after the World War I, Japan became one of the 5 great powers in the world. This is Japanese modernization. However, on the process of this modernization, Japan became imperial power in East Asia. Yeah, Japan made aggression towards neighbor countries. Yes, actually. And Japan colonized Taiwan for 50 years, from the 1895 to 1945, when the World War II ended. And Japan ruled the Korean Peninsula for 35 years, from 1910s and to 1945, and other areas. And also Japan had some leased territory at Dalian, the Shun area, for 35 years. Yes, and so on. And however, Japan kept the cooperative diplomacy, foreign policy with Britain, USA, and other powers, at least until the late 1920s, I think. However, around the 1930s, Japan changed its foreign policy to be more independent, okay, far from the US and the Britain line. So, for example, Manchurian incident, Mukden incident in 1931 Japan invaded Manchuria, and withdrawal from the League of Nations in 1933, and the Sino-Japanese War started in 1937, and Pearl Harbor attack in 1941. Yes, so as you know, Japan was defeated in 1945. We know, and Japan as the defeated country started new history after 1945. Yes, as Ambassador Mohamed said, in 1951, Japan signed the San Francisco Peace Treaty. Your country, Pakistan, also signed it. Yes, so the treaty became efficient in April 28, 1952. Yes, our diplomatic relationship between Pakistan and Japan was also started on that day. Yeah. So this is the new turning point of Japan in our modern and contemporary history. Yeah, and on the process of this new start of the Japan after the World War II, especially under the occupation by the United Nations. UN troops consist of US and Britain, including Australian troops, occupied Japan for 7 years, from 1945 to 1952. Under the UN's United Nations occupation and also the initiation, Japanese government advanced the new policy to be a peaceful nation, and also start the industrialization again. Yeah, so dissolution of the military, reform of the emperor system, and democratic nation and the economic recovery. These are the main policy for new Japanese government after 1945. And also, Taiwan and Korea must do decolonization, but Japan also must do de-imperialization at the time, as a defeated country. After the Japanese new independence in 1952, when the San Francisco Peace Treaty became efficient, in 1956, Japan joined the new United Nations, UN. Yeah, and Japan started the economic cooperation with Pakistan in 1954, maybe. So yesterday, last year was the 70 years anniversary of economic cooperation between Japan and Pakistan, I think. These are all the pictures to show our cooperation between Pakistan and Japan. So in the 1950s, the Cold War, so-called Cold War started. In East Asia, so-called Cold War started under the Korean War. What would happen in 1950? Yeah, U.S. under the Cold War, under the Korean War, U.S. held the conference of San Francisco Peace Treaty, and also before and after to sign up the peaceful treaty, U.S.-Japan signed the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty in 1951. And before that, United States signed up a series of security treaties with East Asian countries or Pacific countries. Without Japan, South Korea, ROC Taiwan, and South Vietnam, and Thailand, Philippines, and Australia and New Zealand. These are so-called allies of USA. This is the camp of the USA side. However, we must pay attention to this style. It's different from so-called NATO in Europe. In East Asia, yes, Japan has and had security treaty with USA. However, Japan did not and does not have security treaty with South Korea. No. Japan didn't have security treaty with Taiwan. No. Australia, nothing. So this is not regional system. This is a so-called hub and spoke system. half is the USA. Spoke is each country, Japan, ROK, Taiwan, South Vietnam, and others. This is the difference between NATO and the East Asian Security Alliance. Yeah. And in 1970s, the big change, a big earthquake occurred in East Asian international relations. What happened? Actually, under the Sino-Soviet splits, Damansky Island incident, or Zhenbaodao in Chinese, happened in the Manchuria area, northeastern part of China, between Russia, Soviet Union and China. It's a military confrontation. After that, China was approaching to USA and the Western countries. So in 1971, Mr. Kissinger went China. And 1972, President Nixon visited China. And at Shanghai, both US and China launched the Shanghai Communique. After that, in 1972, Japan changed its foreign policy about China. As you know, there were so-called two Chinas in the world. PRC government in Beijing, ROC government in Taipei. In 1952, Japan signed a peace treaty with Taiwan's ROC government. So from the 1952 to 1972, for 20 years, Japan had diplomatic relationship with ROC Taiwan. However, in Japan, especially in the economic society, there were big voices that Japan must have a diplomatic relation with Beijing, PRC China. Why? There were much more larger population than Taiwan, a big market, and so on. And Japan made aggression towards mainland China, though Japan colonized Taiwan for 50 years anyway. Under this situation, Japan's government had one policy, one principle that if the representative seats in United Nations of China seats of United States, United Nations, was occupied by ROC, Taiwan, Japan kept the formal relation with ROC. However, if the seats of China in UN changed to be PLC, Japan changed so-called recognition of China to PLC. This was the principle of Japanese government that was adopted in 1964. In 1971, as you know, under the Albanian proposal, the seat of China in UN was changed from RC China to PLC China. So Japan decided to switch the recognition to the PLC. So in September 29th, 1972, Japan made a normalization of the relationship with PLC. This is a new start of the China-Japanese relations. But Japan still kept socio-economic relations and cultural relations with Taiwan. Yeah. This is the Japanese way. Japan cut off the diplomatic relation with Taiwan and normalized with PLC, relationship with PLC. However, Japan kept the socio-economic cultural relation with Taiwan. This is the balance between Taipei and Beijing until now. Yeah. And also, in 1979, United States also made a normalization with PLC China, and the security treaty between USA and ROC Taiwan was abolished. And the US troops in Taiwan withdrew from Taiwan in 1979. This is a new situation. Okay, this is a new change of the balance, security balance in East Asia. However, it's so interesting. USA conducted new domestic law called Taiwan Relations Act. This is domestic law in the USA to, decide to sell some weapons toward Taiwan in order to status quo in the Taiwan Strait. At that time, Chiang Kai-shek of ROC wanted to recover mainland China and attack mainland China. However, USA did not support Chiang Kai-shek attack towards mainland China. USA's purpose is keep the status quo on Taiwan Strait. Anyway, TLA is still alive now. Yeah. And as you know, Vietnam War was ended in 1975. So from the hub and spoke system point of view, the two spokes were stopped in 1970s. USA, Taiwan, USA, South Vietnam. However, this system was continued. And also ROC, United States support Taiwan under the TLA, Taiwan Relations Act. It's so interesting. Japan and the USA made a normalization of relationship with PRC in 1970s. However, under the Cold War context, Taiwan is still in our side, our camp. It's complex to tell, sorry. Yes, we had no diplomatic relation with Beijing. However, from the context of the Cold War, the military camp, Taiwan is still in the US side. I know you're so confused, really, but anyway, this is the reality. After the normalization relationship between Japan and PRC, Japan conducted the new peace treaty in 1978 with China. And as you know, the end of the 1978, Deng Xiaoping, he started the new policy, reform and open policy. Yeah, after that, China experienced 30 years economic development. However, you know, in 1979, Prime Minister Ohira Masayoshi visited China and and proposed that Japan will support China's open and reforming policy. That was the start of Japanese ODA, Official Development Assistance, toward China, so-called economic cooperation. In 1980s and 1990s, Japan supported China economically and financially, and supported to build these so many infrastructures, trains, ports, and airports, and so many. And Japan supported to cultivate the excellent teachers of Japanese languages in China, almost 600 teachers or professors and so on. So in 1980s, Japan and China experienced the honeymoon period for 10 years. In Japan, more than 70 Japanese liked China at the time. Yeah. It was a special period, I think. When I was a junior high school student, I really I remember that. And also in 1972, Chinese panda came to Japan. I also went to the zoo to see the panda. I remember it, yes. So anyway, this is good. It's very good relationship between Japan and China especially 1980s. So China also, evaluated Japanese support for Chinese development. This is a picture of former Prime Minister Wen Jiabao. When he visited Japan in 2007, he made a speech at Japanese diet. In his speech, he said, the development of friendly Sino-Japanese relations has brought tangible benefits to the people of two countries. China's reform, opening up, and modernization have received support and assistance from the Japanese governments and the people, which the Chinese people will never forget. This is what Wen Jiabo said in 2007, 17 years ago. And also at the speech, he also said that since the normalization of the diplomatic relations between China and Japan, the Japanese government and the leaders have repeatedly stated their position on the historical issue, because Japan made aggression toward China. Publicly admitting to the invasion and expressing deep remorse and apologize to the victim countries. In response, the Japanese government and the people have given positive evaluation, he said. Yeah, so I think his speech is yes, is a summit of the reconciliation between Japan and China in 2007, I think. However, yes, such a situation was changed in the first decade in this century, I think. The standpoint between of the China and Japan was changed. In 2008, China held the Beijing Olympic, and 2010, China held the Shanghai Expo. On that year, China's GDP became number 2 in the world. Japan downgraded number 3. Now that Japan downgraded to number 4 now. Anyway, and China also changed its foreign policy in 2006, 7, 8. Before these years, the purpose or aim of Chinese foreign policy was just a development, economic development. However, in 2006, 7, 8, China changed the wording, terminology of the Chinese foreign policy. The main purpose of Chinese foreign policy was changed to be a sovereignty. And, sovereignty and security and development. They add sovereignty and security. I think it's natural, but anyway, add 2 elements. And also after that, 2008, 9, 10, China changed its military or coast guard activities at the maritime area, maritime region. It was the first time for Chinese public vessels to enter the Senkaku Diaoyi territorial water in December 8th, 2008. It was the first time. That was so shocking news to Japanese society. Anyway, China changed it. I do not criticize China because Chinese power is emerging. The position of China and also power of China is changing. So China adjusted the policy, we know. But anyway, for our point of view, China is emerging, it was emerging, became a big power and started expansion. This is our perception. But Chinese perception is different, we know. But anyway, it was a new challenge. Beyond after that, Japanese people feel, China is expansioning. And territorial problem has also happened. So, before and after this period, Japanese perception toward China was getting worse and worse. Now that 90% Japanese do not like China. As I said, in 1980s, more than 70% Japanese likes China. Now that 90% Japanese don't like China. Drastically changed. However, I'd like to say, at present, more than 60 Japanese say Sino-Japanese relations is important for Japan. It's so vague. I do not like you, but our relations is important to me. It is so complex, but this is real feeling of Japanese. So we must enhance some military or security capability or coast guard capability to be against China, so-called detain. However, we must keep the good relationship with China economically. Recently, economic security problem happened. A little bit difficult for us to separate security or politics and economy. Separation of policy and economy was Japanese traditional policy. However, recently Japan is facing with so-called economic security, semiconductor, high-spec, 2 nano, 3 nano, 4 nano, high-spec security components by TSMC in Taiwan and so on. So Japan must accept such a, cooperation with the USA and the countries. However, how about your clothes, glasses, or socks? No problem on the security issues. So Japanese companies have keep the factories in China. However, there are some promise on global value chain. This is network, supply chains. So Japanese companies, have so many factories in China, but these factories collect components from China and produce goods in China and sell goods for Chinese market. This is the way for Japanese companies. If the companies want to produce something for the world market, these factories almost moved to Southeast Asia or other areas now. This is a new situation. Anyway, Japan still keep the good relations. How about Chinese foreign policy or domestic policy? Today I talk about Chinese foreign policy. At first, I'd like to say that Chinese top leader Xi Jinping, his speech at the 19th Party Congress in 2017, he said, until 2049, China realized its dream. What is the Chinese dream? General Chinese recognize Chinese dream is to unify Taiwan and catch up USA. And Xi Jinping also said that until 2049, China will standing at the center of the world, he said, until 2049. I think that means catch up USA. And he said, until 2035, and the 2035 is the midpoint on the long path toward the 2049. He said that, these points. So China's point of view, to catch up USA, is the most important target of foreign policy now. And also, before the 1917, Xi Jinping said, China will became a creator of international order. In the Hu Jintao period, Hu Jintao is the former leader of China. Hu Jintao did not say China was the creator of the international world, but Xi Jinping said, and he said, China could not support existing world order without United Nations and international law. China would support UN and international law. However, China cannot support the US-led security allies and Western value. This is also a new situation. Xi Jinping's policy that is different from Hu Jintao's. But before talking about such a new policy, we must remember the Chinese basic line on a foreign policy. As you know, Chinese self-perception is China is developing country. The per capita of GDP of Chinese is now 15,000 US dollars, maybe almost. But China, still says China is developing country, and also the leader of the developing country, or leader of the G77, and also China, but China is superpower. 发展中大国 in Chinese. Developing country, but superpower is world. This is Chinese self-recognition. Yeah. And China has some principles and its foreign policy. First is China emphasizes on the unity of China. This relating to Taiwan issue. And China emphasizes on sovereignty, borders, and the rejection of the interference in the internal affairs. This is natural. Yeah. This is a peace and friendship principle, that China and India and other countries adopted at the Bandung Conference in 1955. And also the other principle is independence and autonomy, or independence and self-reliance principle that was adopted by Deng Xiaoping in 1980s. This principle means China does not have any allies. So from Chinese point of view, Russia is not ally of China. Russia is ranked the higher level, top level partner of China. China does not use the ally without North Korea, but North Korea is exceptional. Anyway, this is the policy. However, recently, China is facing with a series of problems in the global world. US-China competition, you know, and Ukraine war, and global South issues and so on. But one of the most biggest problem is this. This is just chart of Pew, PEW research on a perception of world countries towards China. The green mark shows the worst number in this 20 years. The red chart, red mark in the 2023. Blue one shows the best number in this 20 years. So it's clear that recently, especially after COVID-19, after the Ukraine war, the perception of the world toward China is getting worse and worse. This is a big problem for China now. How does China change this situation? Sorry, Pakistan is not on the chart, but India on it. India, yes, last year 2023, the 67% persons were negative toward China. How about Japan? The chart says Japanese 87% Japanese were negative toward China. 87, as I said, almost 90% Japanese do not like China. However, 87 was not worst number. The worst is 93 in 2013. So it's so interesting. From Chinese point of view, before and after COVID-19, after the Ukraine war, Japanese perception toward China is not getting worse. So flat. Yes. So Japanese perception toward China is so stable now. Yeah, but 90% Japanese do not like China. These are the situation of the exercises of Soviet, Russia and Chinese Navy and Air Force. Or this just shows the Japanese Air Force is scrambled towards the Chinese aircraft and Russia's aircraft. Yeah, these are the shows activities, Chinese PLA's, Navy's activities and so on. Anyway, finally I talk about Taiwan. Yes, in 2022, many journalists and scholars pointed out China will attack Taiwan in 2024. Well, it is 2025 now. China did not attack Taiwan in 2024. Recently, somebody said that in 2027, China will attack Taiwan by force. But Xi Jinping and the top leaders did not say 2027, 24. But what is the Taiwan policy of PRC now? Yes, unification of Taiwan is so important for PRC. From Mao period, Mao, Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao, Xi Jinping, nobody abandoned this policy. So important. This is the first point. Secondly, yes, China says China does not abandon the possibility to use the force to unify Taiwan. It's also a fact. However, China's basic policy, even at present, is to unify Taiwan peacefully. This is the principle. Okay? So, last year, China did a huge scale military exercise around Taiwan twice to show China enhanced the military level enough to attack Taiwan by force. And also China advanced the economic statecraft policy to stop the import of Taiwan beer, Taiwan fruits, and so on. And China's private public vessels accidentally cut off the maritime internet cable toward Taiwan's island, and so on. So China made a strong pressure toward Taiwan people to change their mind to be much more sympathetic to PRC now. This is Chinese policy. China rarely expects Taiwanese to change their mind to be much more sympathetic and to agree on unification with Taiwan, PRC China. This is this situation now. However, maybe in the future, near future, or in the future, I don't know, China will find this policy would not be efficient to change the Taiwanese mind. This is a chart of Taiwan's public poll in Taiwan. This is a very famous chart. Yeah. At present, more than 60% Taiwanese agreed on a status quo. China is China, Taiwan is Taiwan. And more than 25 Taiwanese agreed on independence. They did not say what the definition of independence. Anyway, they select 25% Taiwanese select independence. So at least 85% Taiwanese do not agree on unification. But only 7% Taiwanese agree on unification with China. Not PRC, just China. Okay, this is not what I say. This is this chart says. This is an open chart. Please check National Chongqing University, independence, unification. You can access this page. Yeah, so there is no confrontation between unification and independence in Taiwan. 80% Taiwanese do not agree on unification. This is a fact. So it's a big challenge for PRC China to change their mind, 85% Taiwanese, to change their mind to unification. Is it possible? It's so dangerous now. It's difficult now. But China is endeavor to change their mind now. So through the Fujian province, China sent us so many, yes, good message toward Taiwanese. If you make investment toward the Fujian province, we are welcome, and so on. But I don't know in the future how would PRC government evaluate its own policy toward Taiwan? If China will recognize their Taiwan policy would not be efficient to unify Taiwan, China will change its policy, including to enhance the level of pressure, military pressure toward Taiwan. So we are on the process on these policies. So from Japanese point of view, we only hope the East Asian situation is stable. So how it is so big challenge for us. How do we keep the status quo? So we must keep conversation with both China and Taiwan. Yeah, and to make communication with China. So recently, Prime Minister Ishiba met with Xi Jinping at Peru, and also last month, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Iwaya-san, went to to China to talk about so many issues. It's a good news. We know there are so serious territorial problem, and so many problems. However, we must keep the conversation, and also we pay attention to and take the importance of the economic and the socio-economic relation with China. I think it is a complex. However, we must keep the balance in East Asia because Japan cannot move from East Asia to other areas. China is a neighbor country forever. Yeah, so we must keep the balance to China. And today's this lecture, I talk about the history of East Asia, so Japanese policy toward China and these other areas, and also East Asia situation under the Cold War, and turning point of the East Asian international relations, and change of Chinese policy in this century, and how do we cope with cope with Xi Jinping's China? This is my topic. If you are interested in the Chinese domestic situation and others, please see my appendix. There are so many materials about the Chinese domestic policies and society and economy. I stop my presentation here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Kawashima Shin, for your very comprehensive presentation. And we have some time. We can open the floor. And I request you to identify yourself and please introduce yourself and ask a very brief question. If there's a comment that may be also a very brief comment so that more people can participate in this Q&A. Sir. Sir.
Aligning Japan more closely with the US, Australia, and India to become a part of the so-called quadrilateral alliance, which China sees as an equivalent of Asian NATO. Now, Prime Minister Abe, I think, also visited a shrine which has negative connotations for the Chinese. So I think the role of Prime Minister Abe's government also played a part in the deterioration of relations between China and Japan. I think that is a part of the history that we need to recognize, and it's a continuing history because the quadrilateral alliance is very much there, and the US attempts to contain and confront China continue, and which the quadrilateral alliance in AUKUS is really a part of that effort. Secondly, with regard to Taiwan, as you rightly recalled, the Taiwan Act of the US recognizes a one China policy. However, more lately, the US has deviated from that policy, has engaged in massive arms transfers, greater political interaction with Taiwan, and actually supporting, endorsing, and encouraging political parties and forces in Taiwan that are opposed to China. So this is obviously seen in Beijing as a deviation from the one China policy by the United States. And the exercises that you mentioned that the Chinese carried out took place after the US head of the Senate, I think Nancy Pelosi, or Congress, one of the leaders of Congress visited Taiwan, and that in response to that the Chinese demonstrated their, undertook these exercises. So it was a demonstration of reinforcing the one China policy. Students of history know the circumstances in which China was a victim of colonization and how the Chinese movement for liberation and the success of the Communist Party in China was opposed by the Western imperial powers. And so for them, the separation of Formosa or Taiwan from the Chinese mainland remains a part of their national aspiration for reunification, which is, I think, a natural belief or a natural view or a policy. And finally, about Xi Jinping's comments about the international system. I, for one, have no problem with the Chinese leaders' endorsement of an international order based on the UN Charter and on the principles of the United Nations, instead of what the US would like to call an American rules-based order in the region. Because for me at least, we witness this American rules-based order, for instance, in the Middle East, where the genocide of the Palestinians is being sanctioned, in fact, aided and abetted by the United States. So if that's the kind of rules-based order that the US wants, I'm sorry, but we believe that China's approach to that rules-based order is much more preferable. So these are our thoughts. I'm a retired diplomat, and I have dealt with Pakistan's foreign policy, so I have some background in these issues.
Thank you, sir. We can take three comments or questions, sir, please.
Thank you, Professor. I also have very few concise comments to make. The first is that, which has been touched on a little bit by my colleague Ambassador Zamir Akram. I'm also a retired diplomat. You mentioned the hub and spoke thing, but of course there's been a further progression with the Quad, because that is not a hub and spoke. It might be not exactly a security alliance, but more or less it is the security dialogue. So it is a virtual security alliance. And secondly, I think it would have been interesting to hear, if you had more time, somewhat on the Japanese perspectives towards South Asia, which is towards Pakistan and India. Some of the issues that bedevil relations between India and Pakistan, the Japanese perception on that would have been also more interesting, I think. And you, in your chart on different countries' perception on of China, you've mentioned, of course, India is prominently there, and many other countries, but it would have been interesting to include in your chart Pakistan as well, because I think the perception here is quite different than in most of the countries that you have said. And coming just to a few small micro points, in your relations with Pakistan, there are some areas which are highs, which are lows. One is that you have been dominating the market for cars in Pakistan for a long time. There's a lot of competition now, including from Korea. But unfortunately, unlike in India, the deletion component and the indigenization of making parts in Pakistan of Japanese cars is very poor. And it would help our industry and our innovation and light industry if that situation was reversed. More parts were made, including engines, etc., etc. And to talk about some of the highlights, I think in 2005 during the earthquake, the Japanese sent a squadron of helicopters here, which is one of the high points of Pakistan-Japanese things, and also, of course, your consistent support for the polio campaigns, anti-polio campaigns in Pakistan. Thank you.
One more comment or question. Ji, Rizwan. Dr.
Purely based on people's, because when it comes to survey, the source you have quoted here, the survey might be not that credible, because this is my one point I would like to invite your comment. Number two, you mentioned being the student of international politics, I learned Chinese are not doing any formal alliance, which is entente cordial. You mentioned yourself. But isn't it better than the formal alliance that US is doing? Ambassador Zamir Akram also mentioned that Quad, then AUKUS and other alliances. I would like to invite your comment on this. Lastly, what US is doing in the Indo-Pacific area, isn't going to disrupt the balance of power in the region, which is likely to trigger problems between Japan and China as well? Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a very, very fruitful and stimulating question. First of all, yes, Ambassador's question. Yes, yeah, today my topic is Japan's perspective, so I talk about Japan. However, for example, Abe's policy toward China, the Abe became a prime minister in the end of 2012, and Abe went to Yasukuni Shrine in the end of 2013. Yeah, this incident stimulated China so strongly, China criticized it. However, in January 2014, Abe, at the cabinet, announced that Abe wanted to improve the relationship with China. China welcomed it. And the end of that year, 2014, China, Xi Jinping, Abe met with Xi Jinping, but without a flag, national flag. Yeah, China showed the criticism down Japan. However, after that, Japan improved the relationship with China, and October 2018, Abe visited China formally. So on the same month, October 4th, 2018, U.S. Vice President Pence made a speech to criticize China at the Hudson Institute. But at the same month, Abe visited China formally to shake hands with Xi Jinping and talk about a series of cooperative projects of cooperation, a third country. And originally, Xi Jinping planned to come to Japan in 2020 at spring to see the cherry blossom in Tokyo. However, because of the COVID-19, he could not come to Japan. So anyway, Abe basically improved or recovered Sino-Japanese relations also. China also accepted the first. Secondly, you are right. Japanese security policy is under the Abe administration was changed. Or, yes, Japanese security policy was getting more positive. Yeah. There are two reasons. First is U.S. policy. This point is related to the ambassador's question. Yes, there were hub and spoke. There was hub and spoke systems in the East Asia. Yes. However, in this century, President Obama says that U.S. had never been police in the world, right? So Obama has said U.S. could not play a role as a police in the world. And also Obama required allies, including Japan, to three proposals. First is our allies. The characteristics of allies must be changed to be much more mutual ally. Not only U.S. supports you, but also you also support me, like Trump. Yeah, there is continuity between Obama and Trump, I think. Secondly, so you, allies, must increase the military budget, to contribute something. Third is allies, including Japan, Australia, and other countries. Allies without the USA must include the cooperation level. So Abe visited Australia so many times and realized the so-called semi-ally or junior ally relationship with Australia. There's a big change. However, this is such a policies or advanced under the USA's new policy, I think. Second is China's Chinese expansion. Precision map. In 1990s, no Chinese Navy fleets came to eastern part of Japan. But recently, Chinese Navy fleets go around Japan. Okay. And also after the Ukraine war, there are so many joint activities, exercises between Russia and China around Japan. So Japan felt a strong pressure after in the 2010s. I know this is Japanese perception. China has its own perception, different. From a Chinese point of view, I especially China. So China says, because U.S. and Japan includes the military capability, so China is and was compelled to increase its own military capability. Okay, so both sides said same thing. U.S. Japan say, oh, because of China, so that. China says, because of U.S. and Japan, so that. This is typical security dilemma. Yeah, this is typical security dilemma. Actually, all of East Asian countries are facing with the other big problem of security. It is aging population problem. Yeah, but under this security dilemma, Japan, allocate China, Taiwan, all of the countries and the regions increase the security budget. This is a fact. So if Japanese scholars, Japanese say A, China also say B, this is a security dilemma, I think. So how do we cope with this security dilemma situation? Yeah, this is a big challenge for us. And also pay attention to much more on social security and other population issues. And about Taiwan, Yeah. So China also says that U.S., Japan support DPP, 民进党, Democratic and Progressive Party, DPP, so that President Lai Ching-te express some independent atmosphere so strongly. So U.S. and Japan, if U.S. and Japan do not support President Lai Ching-te cannot express such an independent style. This is Chinese opinion. Yeah. And also DPP is pursuing the independence. Yeah. So China has its own perception. And China wants to advance the policy of unification, as I said. How about Taiwanese? Yes, they do not accept it. This is the point. You know, China has China's policy, but the Taiwanese people does not accept it. At this moment, how do we say? PLC wants to do it. However, the target, Taiwanese people, almost 85% Taiwanese do not accept it. How do we make comment on this situation? Yeah. Thirdly, yes, USA's one China policy. It's possible the contents and characteristics of China policy is changing, I know. But first of all, China has one China principle, right? But each country has one China policy. It's different. For example, China's one China principle is there is one China in the world. Okay? PLC government is only one government to represent China. The third is Taiwan is the essential part of PLC territory. These are three elements of one China principle. Then, how is USA's one China principle? Actually, the concept is complex, but anyway, simply speaking, USA acknowledges this Chinese one China principle, especially about the third element about Taiwan. How about Japan? Japan respects and understands Taiwan's one China policy. So, how do China, USA or Japan cope with one China policy? It is so important for us to adjust it. Yes, at least to make communication with PRC China. So, Mr. Blinken visits China so many times to talk about the one China policy of USA. He said to Wang Yi, USA does not change the one China policy. But Wang Yi also said that Chinese point of view, this is good exchanges now. So it is so important for us to make conversation with China. How do we cope with one China policy? This first. Yeah. So changing or not changing. Yeah, it is an important problem, but it's so difficult to us to interpret. Thirdly, China's view, yes, most of Chinese policies are natural for Chinese. Yeah. From Chinese point of view, China was originally much more larger empire in the world, especially in the 18th century. But in the modern period, powers, including Britain and Japan, invaded China. So now that China wants to recover to the original situation, like 18th century. It is Chinese, its own natural thinking, maybe. But if China really recover to the original one, how do the neighbor countries see such a Chinese activities? This is also an important point. So neighbor countries about China, like Vietnam, Japan, are okay. Many countries, these perception of these countries toward China are getting worse and worse now. However, historically, economically, we have strong relations with China. So their feeling is divided now. Don't like you, but important. This feeling is shared by Japan, are okay, Vietnam, and these countries, other countries surrounding China. Yeah, it is challenging for us, both China and the foreign country, I think. Yes, and China's concept of internationalization is better than USA's. I understand. Yeah, Xi Jinping says, until 2049, Chinese newly international orders will be realized. What is the Chinese newly international order? Xi Jinping says, this order starts from the economic relations. China and a country, yes, had a good economic relations. This economic relations will enhance to the partnership. And the network of partnership enhanced to the much more higher level friendship circle. And the friendship circle will deepen the relationship to the prosperous of this destiny and so on. Anyway, so what is characteristics of the Xi Jinping's concept is he does not mention on a democratic peace. Democratic peace is the main concept of the American international order. If the democracy will prevail, the world will be much more peaceful. It's one of the dream, right? So China doesn't mention the development peace, democratic peace. So we don't know which is better. Maybe we know the result in the future. However, it is important for us to say this game is not zero-sum game. This is zero-sum. Zero-sum means US better, China is better. Maybe both is better or the both is not better. Or yes. So each country also have the each thinking. A country maybe 70 China, 30 USA. It's no problem. It's not zero-sum game. But however, if they eliminate the one side, you bet 100% to the A side, B side. It's not so good. I think it's better for us to keep the balance between US and China. Today I also talk about this balance on the Japanese version. Because Japan has security alliance with USA. Yes, our public opinion is also so negative toward China. However, yes, socio-economic relations, and also public opinion recognize Sino-Japanese relations is important. Yeah, so the balance is so important. And also about this public opinion that I depend on is Japanese cabinet, Naikakufu, Japanese cabinet public opinion every year. 外交に関する世論調査 public poll about the diplomacy. If you check the Japanese cabinet or the English version, you can find the public poll of it. And also Genron NPO data in the Japanese. The Genron NPO cooperated with Chinese government to do the public poll every year to check the perception of both country, okay, toward the both country. Yeah. And about Taiwan part, I check the National Chongqing University's data. And also I depend on the Taiwan-Japan Exchange Organization, 交流协会 in Chinese. It is also open so many public polls about the mutual perception between Taiwan and Japan on the website. It's an open website. So sorry, I do not say the data, original data. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kawashima. We have a set of questions. Sir, please.
Thank you very much for a very interesting discussion, presentation that you made covering China, Korea, Taiwan and Japan. one factor which you probably did not highlight enough, I think, was the US factor. For example, you have a defense pact with the USA, security pact. What happens when Okinawa is returned to the Japanese fully? And when USA is no longer a main player in Eastern Asia, Southeast Asia, this is going to happen in the next 20, 30 years anyway, because something else is happening. And what happens when Trump comes in? Lastly, I just want to mention about Pakistan-Japanese relations. There was a gentleman here, Mr. Hiroshima, who worked here for JICA for about 18 to 20 years. And he had major contributions towards building Pakistan-Japanese relations. Thank you.
Ji, please. Up.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Kawashima. I'm Samad Naim from National Defense University. I'm an MPhil researcher researching on bettering Pakistan-Japan relations through cultural and economic incentives and programs. I want to ask you, what does the Japan government and the Japanese people think of Pakistan in terms of foreign relations, economic relations, and cultural relations? And how do you think these relationships may be improved? And how do countries and factors such as the US-China competition, the Pakistan-India dispute, and the Pakistan's relationship with China and other such factors play in this relationship? Thank you.
Ambassador Sohail Mahmood.
Thank you so much. I have a couple of comments to also share. But first, let me thank you, Professor Shin, for highlighting the complexity of Japan-China relations, which are certainly weighed heavily by history as well as the Taiwan issue. And of course, talking of mutual perceptions, it's important to see what is Japan's perception in China itself as well. I think it's been highlighted, and I would also stress that the recent dynamics in the region cannot be seen in isolation from the major power contestation that is going on there, and especially the US-led effort to contain China. In Pakistan, the perception is that this is a wrong-headed policy and will only result in greater instability globally, as well as problems for the global economy as well. And you said that Xi Jinping does not use the word democratic peace. Well, each nation, each leader chooses their own phraseology. And what we have seen that in its outreach to the United States, both in Bali and in San Francisco, the Chinese side has insisted on 3 principles, and we think these are unexceptionable. 1, mutual respect; 2, peaceful coexistence; and 3rd, win-win cooperation. So I think this gives enough space for both sides to address their differences and whatever they might have. My second comment and last comment is about the recent exchanges between Japan and China. And certainly the summit meeting in Lima between President Xi and Premier Chiba was very important. And in that meeting, I think the Chinese side did indicate that this is a critical period of improvement in China-Japan relations, and that the 2 countries should try to be partners, not threat to each other. And they stressed that it is important to comprehensively advance the strategic relationship of mutual benefit and endeavor to build a constructive and stable China-Japan relationship that meets the requirements of the new era. So while it is conscious of what is happening by a group of countries trying to contain its development and its rise, China is very committed, it seems to me through these statements, to improving the relationship with Japan and also addressing the issues that have historically weighed on the relationship. And these statements testify that there is a delicate stage in Japan-China relations today, and that this process should be strengthened by both sides. So this was my comment.
Thank you, sir. Quick last 20-second question by Gilani.
Thank you very much, Dr. Talat. I'm Hassan Gilani. I'm a media person with the state television. Professor Shin, thank you very much for the very enlightening lecture. It's actually more of a supplementary question. We have seen that historically, despite having a contentious past, China and Japan have been quite intertwined economically. And now China is raising concern over Japan's rising closeness militarily with the US. So in this scenario, how does Japan plan to navigate through the relationship between the US and China, particularly in the domain of economy, because you are quite economically reliant on each other? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very, very insightful questions. First of all, yes, I answer your question. If Prime Minister Abe were alive, it's possible for Abe to manage or, yes, yeah, the U.S.-China relations. But it's so difficult now. Yeah, so, and also, China's economy, GDP, is as 3 times as Japan's economic level. So huge. So for Japan's point of view, China is the most largest economic partner. From the Chinese point of view, Japan is not the most largest partner now. That's only 4th. So it is a big problem for us we seemingly lost the leverage to approach to China now. Yeah, gradually. So it's possible for us to create much more attractive cooperation toward China, like aging problem and others. Because the Japanese experience of aging or social security are much more earlier than China's. So we must create much more attractive to keep the leverage towards China. Thank you. Yes, and yes, about the hub and spokes. Yes, quite. Thank you so much. Very big, important question. Sorry, no. Okinawa, sorry, Okinawa. Yeah, Okinawa is one of the most, difficult problem for us. But first of all, if you check the poll, public poll done by the Okinawa Prefecture, you will find that Okinawa people also agree on the U.S.-Japan alliance. However, they do not agree. So many bases, U.S. bases, are in Okinawa. Is the point. So and also, how do we prospect the Trump period? The most, embarrassing point is Trump will make some deal with allies. For example, Trump will propose to our allies to increase the military budget. We must pay a GDP 3% or 4% military budget, defense budget, to buy some U.S. weapon, or I don't know. But anyway, it's a possibility only. And also, if Trump will propose to withdraw U.S. troops in East Asia, it's also a big problem for us. Actually, we rely on USA's troops in East Asia to keep the stability. If really USA's troop will be withdrawn, if USA troop will withdraw from East Asia, it's a big problem for us. It costs much more for us to pay such a defense cost to protect us, to keep status quo. So it's a dilemma for us. US steel? Yeah, this is also the other big problem. In the public opinion in Japan, and especially in SNS, many people criticize USA's way. USA does not believe in Japanese as allies, but the Trump administration welcomed France enterprises to buy some company in USA. So this is SNS, opinion in SNS. So it's not so influential. But anyway, such a public opinion is now emerging. That's right. However, it's also the new unpredictable elements on the Trump administration, I think. So how do we cope with? So it's a big challenge for us allies to be against with Trump administration. So we must keep the good relation with both USA and other allies without USA. How do we make cooperation with Australia, ROK, and others? Yes. And Pakistan, Japan, yes. If you check the contents, the Japanese textbooks from the elementary, junior high, and high school, you can find some Pakistan situation in textbooks of geography, and in the history textbook, so the world history textbook, Mohenjo-daro, and each dynasties here, and also the yes, your independence, and All India Muslim League, and Mr. Jinnah, and others. Yes, so, but textbook of history does not introduce the socio-economic situation in this country, I think. Yeah, and also I think, sorry, Ambassador, but I think the exchange between Pakistan and Japan is not so enough, I think. Yeah, how many students, Pakistan students in Japan, to learn something in Japanese universities? Well, so we must advance much more on exchange, especially on the younger people, I think. Yeah, so, and also, especially after the 2010s, Japan advanced a relationship with India, right? So Japan support the Indians' metro and high-speed railway and so on. But this is personal opinion. I hope Japan also restart the Japanese ODA or other economic cooperation with Pakistan, I think. And also restart the direct flight from Japan to Tokyo to Islamabad or Karachi, I think. Yeah, this is my personal opinion. Yeah, and about the, sorry. So your question is also important. So Japan-China relationship, yeah. As you said, recently China expressed a positive approach towards Japan. Yes, that's right. Wow, what happened? First of all, without Japan, Western countries without USA are the target of Chinese diplomacy now. China is also facing with unpredictable situation under Trump. So China is now improving a relationship with Western countries now. It's the first. However, but especially Japan is the target of Chinese policy. Why? The first is Japanese domestic policy. In an LDP election, some kinds of devolution was a kind of revolution happened in LDP election. As you know, there are so many factions, group in LDP. Okay. But the largest faction is or was Abe faction or Seiwakai faction. This group was so influential in this 20 years or 25 years. So in this 20 or 25 years, this faction supports each administration. So this faction has been so influential towards Japanese each administration. However, this faction failed keeping the initiative in LDP at this election. So if you check the name list of the cabinet of Ishiba, you cannot find the name of the Abe faction or Seiwa faction. It's a big change. This Seiwa faction, Abe faction, keeps good relations with Taiwan because this faction is so conservative. Lai Ching-te of DPP, top leader of Taiwan, also had strong ties with Abe himself and also Seiwakai, these faction politicians. Then how about Ishiba-san? Ishiba-san maybe doesn't have any specific mind to Taiwan, I think. So for Chinese point of view, Ishiba-san is so good person to improve the situation. Just from Chinese point of view. Actually, in the cabinet, in the diet, LDP seats and Ishiba cabinet doesn't have the majority seats in the cabinet, the diet. However, China is approaching Ishiba now because the Seiwakai conservative faction does not have influence on Ishiba-san. Ishiba-san is much more independent of these conservative politicians. This is Chinese eyes, I think, the first. And also, because the conservative faction had strong ties with Taiwan, but this faction does not influence on Ishiba. So Ishiba is flat, equal. So with Taiwan. So Chinese, they think Ishiba is better. And Ishiba also, his personality, he says his teacher is former Prime Minister Kakuei Tanaka. Kakuei Tanaka, he advanced the normalization between PRC and Japan in 1972. It's also good news, good elements for PRC. So it's so many. So it's a Chinese point of view, Ishiba is the attractive person, to Chinese mind. But however, situation is not so easy. Actually, this year, Ishiba is facing with a series of problems. For example, the upper house election in June or July. So if Ishiba failed getting the majority on the upper house, I don't know, Ishiba administration can continue or not. So there's so many problems. Anyway, for Chinese point of view, Trump elements and elements of Japanese domestic politics, two elements influence on the Chinese problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kawashima, for your very comprehensive responses to questions. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to the end of today's event. I would like to thank Ambassador Shuichi, Ambassador of Japan in Pakistan. I would like to thank Dr. Kawashima Shin, Professor of International Relations from Japan, for his very comprehensive talk. I would also like to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us for this event. Before refreshment, we have a brief segment. I would request Ambassador Khalid Mahmood, the Chairman, Board of Governors, Institute of Strategic Studies, to give away the mementos to the guests. Sir.